Leo, radiant soul of the zodiac, protector of light and loyalty. What if the uneasy feeling you've been carrying lately wasn't just a passing mood, but a cosmic signal? What if that restlessness in your chest, that dream you keep waking from, that strange shift in energy around your home were not coincidences, but messages? Messages you were always meant to receive, and today, you finally have. Welcome to Eternal Mindfulness. This isn't just a horoscope, this is a moment of alignment between you and the universe. Because let's be honest, you didn't land here by accident. You were drawn here by something greater than logic. And as we begin this deep energetic reading, the truth is already whispering its way to the surface. A truth that is serious. And it's about someone close, someone you trusted. Someone you never imagined could be the source of what's been unraveling quietly around you. Leo, your fire has always burned brightly. But when that flame flickers, when your spirit dims without reason, the universe speaks louder. And today, it's speaking through signs, symbols, and revelations you can no longer ignore. A neighbor has witnessed something. A mask has slipped. And the woman who once stood beside you, who may have smiled in your light, could be the one whose shadow now lingers in your space. But here's what I want you to know. This is not to frighten you, it's to awaken you. Because your intuition hasn't failed you. In fact, it's been screaming to be heard. And now, through this reading, it finally can be. This is a sacred space. And right now, in this very moment, you are being asked not just to listen but to feel. Before we go deeper, allow me to pause to thank you, sincerely, for being here. Your presence is powerful. Every like, every comment, every share, every subscription, it isn't just support. It's a thread of energy that binds you to a soul-driven community of seekers, empaths, and light warriors, all of us walking through truth, together. Eternal mindfulness exists because of you. And what we're about to uncover today, Leo, is nothing short of extraordinary. So take a deep breath. Drop into your body. Listen to your own heartbeat. Because what's coming through is not a prediction, it's a confirmation. You already felt it. And now it's time to face it. But I promise, with every truth comes release. With every betrayal uncovered, comes freedom reclaimed. Now, let me ask you this. What brought you here today, Leo? What part of your soul already knew that someone's silence wasn't innocent? What part of your fire has been waiting for this clarity? If you feel this message already stirring something inside you, go ahead and drop a comment below. Let me know by writing, "I'm ready to face the truth." When you do, you not only acknowledge the shift, you activate it. Because Leo, this message is for you. And trust me, you'll want to stay with me until the very last moment. What the universe is about to reveal is powerful beyond words. Shall we begin? Leo, if you've made it this far, there's a quiet part of you that already knows something hasn't felt right. Maybe it started with a restless night, a dream of someone you haven't thought about in ages. Or perhaps it was the heaviness in the air at home, that unshakable sense that something unseen was brushing up against your peace. You've always been attuned to energy more than you admit, and right now, your environment has been mirroring back to you a truth your conscious mind hasn't wanted to face. This isn't paranoia, Leo, it's perception. And your body has been translating what words could not: tension in the chest, waves of fatigue, or even that subtle shift in the atmosphere the moment someone enters or exits a room. You, born under the sun, are no stranger to clarity. But now, the sun's light has dipped into the fog of Neptune and the shadows of Pluto. These planetary influences aren't here to confuse you, they're here to refine you. Neptune casts illusions, yes, but it also strengthens discernment when we stop relying only on our eyes and start trusting the silent voice inside. Pluto, on the other hand, strips away what no longer belongs, but only when we're ready to see what we've been avoiding. What you're sensing is not drama. It's not emotional overreaction. It's your inner wisdom tapping gently and now more urgently on the walls you've built to keep discomfort out. This phase asks for gentle awareness. Not confrontation. Not panic. Just presence. That's why noticing matters. The moment you acknowledge the uneasiness, the dream, the chill in the room, you've already begun to reclaim your center. You don't have to explain it to others, Leo. In fact, you might find that the more you try to, the less they understand. That's because what you're feeling is not theirs to interpret. It's yours to honor. Your inner fire has never misled you, but sometimes, in the effort to keep harmony, you've quieted it. You've told yourself, maybe I'm just imagining it. But silence, when it comes from fear, becomes an invitation for deeper misalignment. This is where the practice of attention becomes your healing path. There's deep wisdom in the stillness that follows awareness. When you begin each morning not with a scroll through distractions, but by checking in with yourself, what did I dream? How did I feel upon waking? What's the texture of the energy around me today? You become your own guide. Writing these reflections down, even in short fragments, is not about control, it's about communion with your own truth. Over time, these quiet morning moments will connect the dots between your outer life and your inner knowing. There's a saying, when the heart is pure, it senses disruption before the mind can name it. And that's what's happening here. You are sensing a pattern. You are observing a distortion. And though it might not yet have form or proof, your awareness is real. Not everything can be measured or explained, but that doesn't make it any less valid. Like a tree that leans just slightly before a storm, your instincts are leaning towards something that has long needed your attention. So pause, dear Leo. Not to analyze, but to feel. To observe without judgment. To allow the truth to show itself in its own time. Because it will. And when it does, you'll recognize it not by how it looks, but by how your entire body exhales in relief. That moment when the energy in your home feels warm again, when the dream no longer returns, when the tension in your chest dissolves, that's when you'll know, your intuition was never wrong. It was simply waiting for you to believe it. When trust is broken, especially by someone we once welcomed into our inner world, the rupture doesn't just live in the mind, it echoes through the heart, the body, and the space around us. You, Leo, who lead with courage and loyalty, may find it especially painful to admit when someone close, perhaps a woman you once shielded with your own light, has used that closeness not to cherish you, but to control and manipulate. This is not a failure of your strength. It's a lesson born from the very depth of your sincerity. Often, those who misuse our trust don't come bearing obvious threats. They arrive wrapped in warmth, in familiarity. They remember our favorite things. They comfort us when the world feels cold. And yet, something deeper always knows. When the Queen of Wands appears reversed in a reading, she embodies this paradox: charm that hides calculation, care that is conditional, praise that quietly reshapes you to stay small. She doesn't need to raise her voice, she only needs to make you question your own worth when you shine too brightly, or feel guilty for growing beyond the version of yourself she approved of. That is the art of subtle sabotage. And the most dangerous part? You may have defended her, even against your own discomfort, because you believed closeness meant safety. But not all alliances are sacred. Not all smiles are safe. The Three of Swords cuts right through illusion. It reminds us that betrayal from afar may sting, but betrayal from someone within our own circle leaves a wound that bleeds inward. This card doesn't only speak of heartbreak, it speaks of awakening. It asks, what are you finally willing to see, even if it hurts? There's a wisdom in pausing here, not to blame, but to recognize. In many traditions, the deepest form of clarity arises not from confronting the other, but from seeing ourselves clearly within the situation. What made you hold on longer than you should have? Was it a fear of conflict? A hope they would change? Or a belief that if you simply gave more, they would love you better? These reflections are not meant to turn pain inward, but to bring light to the places where we've kept ourselves in patterns that no longer serve. Awareness is the first liberation. And this week, that awareness may come through an unexpected sour, say a neighbor, a witness, someone whose eyes caught a glimpse of what your heart had tried to unsee. When someone from the outside notices what's been happening inside, it offers us a moment of dual clarity. Not only do we receive confirmation, but we're also reminded that energy is never fully hidden. Even manipulation leaves a residue, a vibration that eventually leaks through even the most polished surface. This is why we're drawn to explore not just who someone says they are, but how we feel around them. If your light dims when they enter the room, if your excitement shrinks in their presence, that is not your insecurity speaking, it is your intelligence, encoded in your emotional body. The number 5, in numerology, is a symbol of conflict but also of turning points. It disrupts to awaken. It shakes loose old attachments so something more honest can take root. In this season, Leo, you are being invited to stand not in resistance, but in truth. And part of that truth may mean acknowledging who no longer deserves access to your energy. This week, try surrounding yourself with colors that reinforce your boundaries: deep violet to protect your emotional field, navy blue to stabilize your perception. Avoid bright golds or oranges if they feel too exposed. Your inner fire doesn't need to blaze to be powerful. Sometimes strength is found in quiet retreat, in choosing silence over spectacle, and in walking away from what once felt like home. If this message speaks to you, if something in you feels seen, perhaps even relieved, consider sharing in the comments, "I reclaim my light." That small act of recognition can become the first step back into your own center. Sometimes, the truth doesn't arrive gently. It crashes in like a storm, loud, disruptive, impossible to ignore. And yet, its purpose is never to harm you, Leo. Its purpose is to free you. You, who were born under the boldness of the sun, were never meant to live in shadows. When something within you begins to stir, to rattle the cage of comfort you've grown used to, it's often the sign that a deeper knowing is ready to emerge. Not to destroy what you've built, but to reveal what was never truly stable in the first place. The Tower appears in tarot not as a punishment, but as a clearing. It represents the breaking apart of false foundations, the collapse of what we've tried to keep standing long after its time has passed. Maybe it's a belief you clung to, a relationship you kept protecting, a pattern that became a shield. And when the tower falls, it can feel as if everything is slipping through your hands. But in truth, only what was never truly yours is falling away. What was aligned, what was real, will remain. This is not the end of your structure, it's the beginning of your rebuilding. And this time, you're constructing with truth. That's what makes the judgment card so powerful. It's not about someone else's verdict. It's your own awakening. The moment you see things clearly, not with resentment, but with clarity. Judgment calls you out of emotional paralysis. It's the moment when the fog lifts, and you recognize your own part in the story, not to blame yourself, but to reclaim your voice. You see, awareness is not meant to shame you. It's meant to give you back the power you handed over while trying to preserve peace. This is where inner liberation begins, not when others confess, but when you no longer feel the need to protect what isn't sacred. If you've recently gone through an eclipse season, you may have felt it: physically fatigue, pressure behind the eyes, disrupted sleep, or heightened sensitivity. That's not random. Eclipses carry the energy of sudden truth. They expose what's been hidden and demand release. They often show you what you're finally ready to admit to yourself, even if you don't yet have the words. And while it may feel disorienting, remember, nothing real is ever destroyed by clarity. In practices that center awareness and stillness, there's a phrase often echoed: let go not out of anger, but out of wisdom. That applies here. Cutting emotional ties doesn't mean you wish harm on someone. It means you're no longer willing to carry what no longer aligns with your growth. It means the peace you seek isn't something you can find outside of you, especially not in someone who dims your light to feel seen. When you let go with compassion, you don't burn bridges, you simply stop crossing the ones that lead you back to confusion. This moment, Leo, is asking something sacred of you. Not to fight. Not to fix. But to allow what is false to fall away without trying to catch it. To stop defending what your heart has already outgrown. To surrender the image of how it was supposed to be, and make room for what is honest, steady, and deeply aligned. If you've ever had to walk away from someone you still cared about, if you've ever whispered goodbye while your heart was still holding on, know this: that wasn't weakness. That was wisdom. It was the moment you chose yourself. So if this resonates, if something in you is stirring right now, let it rise. Let it speak. And if you feel called, share in the comments: I choose truth over familiarity. Not for me, but for you. Because that single declaration may be the turning point your soul has been waiting for. When the truth begins to surface, Leo, it doesn't only move through your mind, it ripples through your entire body. What you may have dismissed as physical discomfort or blamed on daily stress is, in fact, the weight of emotional energy that has gone unacknowledged for too long. The tightness in your chest, the restless nights, the shortness of breath, these are not random. They are signals. Your body has been holding the stories your voice hasn't yet told, and each sensation is a whisper asking you to listen more closely. We often think of emotions as thoughts to be sorted out or moods to be managed, but they are more than that. They are experiences that take up residence within the body. When we don't allow ourselves to feel fully, when we suppress hurt, disappointment, confusion, or even joy, that energy doesn't vanish. It settles. And over time, it presses inward into the shoulders that carry too much, into the heart that contracts to protect itself, into the breath that shallows to avoid feeling too deeply. Leo, your body is loyal to you. Even when you've ignored its signs, even when you've pushed through exhaustion or masked discomfort with distraction, it has remained by your side patient, waiting for you to return. This chapter of your life, the one where truth is rising and old illusions are falling away, is not just about seeing clearly. It's about coming back into relationship with the physical vessel that holds your fire. And that begins not with drastic changes, but with small, mindful gestures of care. Start your mornings gently. Before the demands of the day pull you outward, give yourself warm water, simple, grounding, and healing. This isn't just about hydration, it's about warmth returning to your inner system, about saying, "I see you," to the body that has carried so much. Avoid overstimulation at night, too much conversation, too many screens, too many unresolved thoughts. Let silence be a salve. And in the quiet, place your hand over your heart. Breathe into the space beneath your palm. Feel the rhythm that's been steady, even when life felt anything but. Practices like gentle chest opening movements or lying flat with the arms stretched wide may seem small, but energetically, they signal a willingness to be open into life, to self, to receiving. There is a teaching that speaks of the way suffering arises not from pain itself, but from the resistance to it. When you stop fighting your fatigue, when you allow yourself to feel the weight of what's been building, something miraculous happens: release. It doesn't arrive with a bang. It comes softly. Like a sigh. Like a loosening in the shoulders. Like the first full breath after holding too much. And here, the law of attraction becomes more than theory, it becomes lived truth. When you treat your body as worthy of love, as sacred rather than secondary, you send out a message that echoes far beyond your skin. You tell the world, and every energy around you, I am no longer available for what depletes me. I am ready for what restores me. That kind of statement shifts the entire field around you. Not because of magic, but because of alignment. You cannot attract what you do not embody. This week, lean into colors that bring you back to your center. Deep green for healing, for grounding, for calm. Rich crimson for power. Reclaim not the power that dominates, but the kind that steadies. Allow these hues to be companions, subtle reminders that your energy deserves care, just as much as your ambitions do. And if something in this message has stirred you, if you felt the pressure in your body speak for the first time in a while, share it with me in the comments. Write, I choose to listen to my body. Because that single act of acknowledgement is where the healing begins. When you begin to listen to the body, really listen, without rushing to explain away what you feel, a different kind of truth begins to surface, one that doesn't speak through logic or thought, but through sensation, rhythm, and pause. And Leo, after everything that's been revealed in your energy recently, after the masks have fallen, after the silence has been shattered, it makes perfect sense that your body would be carrying the echoes of it all. Emotional experiences, especially the kind that are quietly endured, rarely stay confined to the mind. They settle into the body. The weight of betrayal, the tension of restraint, the heartbreak of choosing growth over familiarity, these aren't just events. They're vibrations. And your nervous system has been doing its best to hold them, to keep you moving forward, even while something within you asks to stop and feel. You may have noticed the fatigue in your shoulders, or the tightness in your chest that no amount of stretching seems to ease. Perhaps sleep doesn't come easily, or when it does, you wake feeling like you've been carrying something through your dreams. This isn't weakness. It's not something to fix. It's an invitation to notice, and to return to yourself with kindness. In the same way the sky changes gradually light to dusk, dusk to dark, your body shifts gently through seasons of healing. It will not shout for your attention unless it has been whispering for too long without a response. There is a teaching that says the root of many kinds of suffering lies not in the presence of pain, but in our tendency to run from it. And so we resist, we distract, we bury. But what's buried does not disappear, it waits. It waits until we're still enough, or quiet enough, or honest enough, to finally face it. And in this particular moment of your journey, as Leo proud, passionate, heart-led Leo, you are being called not to conquer the discomfort, but to make space for it. You've already been brave in truth-telling. Now, the courage is in softening. Letting go of the inner demand to stay strong for everyone else, and instead, tending to your own center. This week, even the smallest acts of care can become a revolution. Warm water in the morning, not just for hydration, but as a ritual of reawakening. Gentle movement that opens the heart space, not because it's trendy, but because your chest deserves room to breathe. Choosing moments of quiet at night, allowing your mind to land rather than spiral. These are not luxuries. They are necessities. And the more you honor them, the more you restore the very life force that has always burned so brightly within you. Color, too, is medicine. Deep moss green brings healing not only to the body, but to the places within you that seek grounding and steadiness. Burgundy reminds you that your power is not in volume, but in depth. Wear these colors or bring them into your space, not for show, but as signals to your own being. I am safe now. I am held now. I am home, even in this moment of transition. And if your body has been speaking to you lately through fatigue, through restlessness, through a quiet assurity, not alone. You're not broken. You're simply becoming aware. And awareness is the doorway to wholeness. If this resonates, if this moment feels like something inside you has been gently named, feel free to share in the comments. I choose to care for what carries me. Because your body is not separate from your path, it is the vessel through which your light reaches the world. And it deserves your love. And now, dear Leo, as we come to the close of this deeply revealing journey together, I want you to take a moment, just one breath, one pause, and recognize how far you've already come. You've faced truths that once hid behind smiles. You felt the weight of silence finally lift. And you've begun listening not to the noise around you but to your own wisdom, your body, your clarity. That in itself is a revolution. You see, your light was never meant to be dimmed just to make others comfortable. Your fire was never meant to flicker in fear of being too much. You were not born to be small. And yet, along the way, you may have learned to shrink, not because you lacked power, but because you were trying to belong. But now, the invitation is different. Now, the energy is shifting. Now, the path forward is lit by your willingness to honor your truth, even if it means letting go of what once felt safe. So I ask you, what are you still apologizing for that no longer needs defending? What part of you is still waiting for permission to shine, even though the universe already whispered, go? If you truly believed that you are the author of your own life, how would you choose to write the next chapter? These are not questions with quick answers. They are invitations. And they're here for you now, not to pressure you, but to open the door to something freer, truer, and deeply aligned. Because here's what I want you to remember: your light is not arrogant. It is necessary. You don't need to explain your growth to those who never nurtured your roots. You don't need to shrink in rooms where your joy feels too loud. Let your warmth guide you. Let your strength return not as defense, but as presence. Leo, you are not the echo of who others expect you to be. You are the voice. And that voice is powerful, not because it shouts, but because it speaks from the soul. If this message touched a part of you, if it stirred something quiet but strong, I encourage you to leave a comment below. Share your affirmation. Perhaps it's, "I no longer dim my light for anyone," or "I choose truth over comfort." Or simply, "I am ready." Your words not only affirm your own growth, they ripple outward and inspire others who may need to see they're not alone on their path. And if you felt seen in this reading, if you felt guided in even the smallest way, I invite you to support this space. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Here at Eternal Mindfulness, this isn't just a place for horoscopes. It's a sanctuary for awakening, for clarity, for coming home to who you truly are. Every interaction you share, every like, every comment, every subscription is a thread that strengthens this community of truth seekers, of quiet warriors, of souls reclaiming their light. So thank you. From the depth of my being, thank you for showing up. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being brave enough to stay until the end. Because what you choose to do with what you've learned today matters. And I believe in the version of you that walks forward from here stronger, softer, wiser. Now, let me leave you with this final truth: you are not behind. You are not broken. You are not too late. You are becoming. And the becoming is beautiful. I'll meet you in the next reading, Leo. But until then, keep shining. Because you were never meant to ask for permission. You were meant to lead.